Welcome. We are live. This is a pop-up. It's a live pop-up. It's a lunchtime learning pop-up. And what is weird, welcome to the Jonny Ross Fractional CMO, but what is weird is today I am the guest. I've got my very good friend, Pascal Fintoni, who co-hosts a number of podcasts with me. But today he's going to present. I'm going to be the guest. So I'm going to let Pascal take over.
I'm taking over happily. I would normally, if it were you and I in a physical room, grab the microphone off you and say, "My turn, Monsieur Jonny Ross." And all this started about a week ago, give or take, to the day, where I saw lots of interesting reels on social media. You're having a wonderful time in a sunny Brighton, where you attended the Brighton SEO 2023 conference. And to say that there was an inkling of envy and FOMO would be an understatement. And then I thought, you know what? Actually, lovely that you should go down and take the time to invest in your own development and learning. But I think you should share. And can I just say, you're very trusting to allow me to literally take over, one of your programs, which I always follow, Greg, because you've had some wonderful guests. So listen, I'm going to go straight into it and start by asking for viewers and listeners who are familiar with the conference. So why do you choose to go to Brighton SEO? And how did you get that? Did you spend nights in hotels? Did you enjoy as well the socializing as well as the learning?
Yeah, so Brighton SEO has been going for a number of years, and it's known as the world's largest search marketing conference. How can I not attend something like that, where I know that there's going to be so much content on search engine optimization? It's my passion, it's my background, it's where I've come up in the digital world, and knowing some of the speakers that were going to be there, some of the content that was going to be covered, it was an opportunity. I think in all careers you've got to continually develop that CPD, and there's nothing wrong with every day as a school day and learning new techniques, even if it gives me the chance to be able to reflect and clarify if some of the strategies I'm using are the right strategies. It gives you the ability to reflect. It gives you the ability to be inspired and sort of take a step back from the day to day and actually just, think, there's something different there. And I was always hoping that perhaps there might be some golden nuggets that I could take away ultimately to power myself and to bring back to my clients.
No, absolutely. Now, when I did have a glance at the Brighton SEO official website, very clear, very easy to navigate, and there was only a lot of things before the events as well. People could go on walks, and they call networking.
Yeah, the fringe events. I mean, there was all sorts of things. There was yoga at lunchtime. There was nights out. There was 5K runs. I didn't engage hugely in a lot of that. I must admit that I took the opportunity of wanting to explore Brighton a bit for myself. So I sort of went off the beaten track a tiny bit and just, I like to, when I go anywhere, I try and absorb the atmosphere. And so I didn't want to just be Brighton SEO'd the whole time. I wanted to see a bit of real Brighton as well.
Yeah, which you shared, kindly via the reels on social media. So when I was looking at the official website, there was an interesting format because there were literally hundreds of talks where they were all 20 minutes. It must have been so hard to choose the one you wanted to go to.
I did not know where to start. I mean, there was literally, I think, 6 different tracks. And each track, as you say, had what it was each track had a segment where maybe an hour long, an hour and 20 long, and in each one of those there was then 3 talks that was related to that segment. So not only was it picking which segment or which track, there was so much content, so many different speakers. So I just decided I did quite a bit of research prior. There was particular speakers that I definitely wanted to see. There was particular talks that I definitely wanted to see. But at the same time, I wanted inspiration. I wanted something a bit different, and I achieved that. And I'm sure we'll get into some of the content that I went to, but I tried to vary it and not just go to the main stage for every single bit, because I think some of the sort of the newer stuff comes out of some of the smaller rooms, and that's where you can get some real insights, whereas the main stage, it tends to be more, in some way, a bit more generic.
I would agree. I mean, I made a point now when I go to an event, even on virtual conferences, I do what you do, which is, the CPD bit, which is what do I want to learn more of this year? Where is my skill gap? And just be that tactical and strategic about it. Otherwise, you run around like a kids, in a kind of toy store where you want to touch everything and have tried everything.
Yeah, I literally did want to see everything, and the only beauty of it is that they release all the content in video format. My ticket gives me access to that video content now. But then over the coming months, they're going to be releasing one talk, I think, a day or a week onto YouTube. So all the content will be out there within the next year or so.
Wow.
But I do have the ability to be able to look at some of the content that I wasn't at, and so yeah, there was a lot. There was a lot.
So going back to the website, I was literally, wow, look at all this happening. But one of the talks at the very top had this very simple title of an update on Google search. It was the shortest title. I thought someone didn't think very, very hard about this. Nonetheless, when I look at the names, I saw the name of John Muller and Billy Jenner. And for a moment I went, no, it can't be John Muller from Google, the man who has been literally doing live Q&As forever. Some of those Q&As lasting 2-3 hours on YouTube. And I saw the picture and it was the John Muller, wasn't it?
It was. And, this is the guy that took over from Matt Cutts. He's become the face of Google, the guy that he puts a tweet out and the likes of Barry Schwartz will analyze that tweet to the nth degree to try and understand what's the message in there, what's the secret, what's the algorithm about to do. Not only did I go to his talk, I was just bringing this up on my phone, Pascal, but for people that are watching right now, I have a selfie with him.
Oh, man.
That's me and John. I managed to get some time with him after the talk as well. And it was the real John Muller. In fact, one of the questions that I asked him was, he was never going to give me the answer, but has Google seen a decline in search since ChatGPT has become more mainstream? He was never going to give me a proper answer, but he said he'd be surprised because he believes that still there'll be a number of people that are still checking Google to fact check what ChatGPT is giving. I think in reality, I could see in his eyes that I was hitting a somewhat sore point, but it was an interesting conversation.
Absolutely. Now, I've been brought up well, so I need to say that I'm so pleased for you to admit John Miller, but I'm very envious. Well done, you. Very quickly on the subject of AI, I was pleased to see, however, glancing at the agenda for the 2 days, that there wasn't too much of it, because there could have been just a thing, the trap to fall into for the organizer, which is all AI powered this and AI enhance the other. And I think they did a very, very good job to make it very, very mixed. Now, I know that you've got probably pages of notes, and you're still going through those notes and reflection. But let me ask you now, your top takeaways. It could be something that is more of a feeling about the event, or it could be some very practical things that you're going to start to implement for your clients.
Yeah, I think, I guess the theme, the biggest takeaway from the event, it was around AI. There was no question. I mean, there was a lot of content around AI, even though at the same time there was a good cross section, and I'll come on to some of that. But if you were to ask me what the biggest takeaway would be, it would be we need to embrace it, and we also need to be cautious. So it's around finding a balance. It's around let's not just let AI take over, but let's recognize the power of AI, and let's recognize how much difference it can actually make in terms of effectiveness, productivity, in terms of data. But then the bigger caution is more data doesn't mean better results. It's about the quality of that data as well. So I think the biggest takeaway, which it would be embracing AI. Now, I already embrace AI. I've been embracing AI for a number of years. The so for me, I think the personally the biggest takeaway was around some of the techniques some people are using. I went to a really moving away from AI for a second. I went to a really interesting segment on TikTok. It was TikTok SEO, and that gave me a real insight into current. I mean, I'm talking like, trends right now, September 23. Current trends on TikTok, and the way TikTok is how powerful it is in terms of the signals it's giving to websites, and how you can game the TikTok algorithm. So as a sort of secondary key takeaway for me, it was around TikTok is, there's so much can be done. And again, I've been using TikTok for probably 3-4 years. I've always said that TikTok is a platform that we should look at. But as a key takeaway, it's like, there's some good stuff here.
And we keep saying, in other conversation we've had in the past, looking elsewhere. So you may not actually be a regular TikTok user, you may not even have an account, but listening to the strategies and tactics can give you the spark of an idea that you can use back to, your more regular platforms.
Well, the biggest takeaway on TikTok was that people like watching nothing. They like watching nothing. They like watching someone out walking, or someone changing their clothes, or someone getting ready for the day, or they people are absorbed in just real life nothing. And it's, it's a bit like watching fire. Watching a fire in a, whether it be a bonfire or whether it be the word's escaping me, a fireplace. Watching fire in a fireplace, you are ultimately watching nothing, but you're captivated by it. And likewise, just sort of seeing real life is the big thing. But then the secondary thing would be around watching something and believing that you're doing it. So whether that be productivity, whether it be travel, seeing someone visit some global city that's, fantastic, seeing them do that makes you feel that you've just done it and experienced it. And so there's that, whilst there's the whole thing of nothingness, there's also the whole thing of watching someone be productive suddenly makes you feel like you've been productive, which is really weird as well.
It's showing that moment in time, which actually Google introduced many years ago. Remember when they had what they called moments?
What was it? ZMOT? Zero moment of truth.
That was for the
Yeah.
search, but also when they were pushing videos and what they call microblogging, which I suppose now that because we have the benefit of hindsight, it may have been the beginning of shorts, but sharing moments in time that are relatable, as well as, the more meaningful kind of addresses. I need to go back now that I've recovered from, being jealous of you meeting John Muller. I need to go back to, did you go to his session and an update on Google search?
I absolutely went to his session. Even though I knew I was going to be getting a video, I audio recorded the entire session so that I could go back and analyze it. In fact, there was a few people there that were of interest. Danny Sullivan was also there as well.
Oh, right, okay.
It was, it was really interesting. And I think the key things I got from John were, well, there was one thing, which was, look, don't panic when there's an update. The last thing to do is to panic and start making tons of changes. That's not how to solve problems from a Google update. But I think the biggest thing that came out was around SGE, which is the search generative experience, which is where Google is bringing AI into search results. And they've rolled it out in India, they've rolled it out in Japan, they've rolled it out in the US. And these are test beds to see how the platforms perform. And so this is, as you're doing a search result, you're then seeing AI results as well. And so there's a whole question around where does that leave us, those businesses that are desperate to get traffic from SERPs. So there was, and what, ultimately what that came down to was, if you want to, if you're going to embrace the whole SGE and how you're going to rank well with SGE, it comes back to quality of content. It comes back to helpful content, resourceful content, produce content that is actually going to help someone, that is actually going to help your audience and it's what me and you have been saying for donkey's years. But it's no different. But I also want to, just whilst I'm talking about John's talk, there was two other big things that I feel came out of it as well. And what he was talking about was how to keep ahead of Google updates and Google algorithms. And there was no secret that the clear focus right now is speed and accessibility. And to be fair, speed, page speed, we've been talking about for a long time, but it's clearly still a very high focus. In fact, coming out in March 24. I'm going to get the acronym completely wrong, seeing that I'm live. Is it NIP, NPI? I can't remember the new metric that's being measured for search speed. Google have already announced that. It's not often that they pre-announce things, but that one they have done. So speed is clearly on top of their agenda, and we in our agency have been very aware of speed for a long time. But the other word that he mentioned a number of times was accessibility. And this is about making the World Wide Web accessible for every single person. And that's, not just making sure that it works across every single browser and every single device, but actually so that every single user can easily use a website. And if he's saying that now, then we know what future Google updates are going to be. It's going to be around, well, is that website any more accessible than the other website? And if it is, you're going to have a higher chance of ranking.
Listening to you is back to, because like I say, when I glanced at all the different talks, and it was literally hundreds, the feeling that I got was the reinforcement of claiming your online presence and really establishing a reputable, credible digital footprint around your brand mentions and the labeling and the product and services that you have, and that it's not just one web page that's going to cut it. You've got to really provide that online experience of leaving no stones unturned about the FAQs and the practical advice and the before, during, and after, and all those things that you and I discuss time and time again. And there's something actually quite reassuring that it doesn't really veer too far away from that constant that's been the kind of key messages you and I've shared for many years now.
Yeah, around the quality of content, for example, or the speed of a website. Yeah, totally. So what I ended up doing was I molded, as I shaped where I was going as I was going. So hearing John talk about accessibility so much, of course, on day 2, where did I go? To a whole accessibility session. It was on my radar, but I'm not being funny. When you are torn between 6 different rooms and all of them are compelling, all of them, you're reading the descriptions, you're seeing the speakers, and you're like, no, but I want to go to that one, and I want to go to that one. Anyway, because John had mentioned accessibility so much in my way of measuring which room I was going to go to, that had to win. And so that was a really interesting 3 talks around accessibility, around ultimately making web pages way more accessible. There were some tools that were quite interesting in terms of measuring accessibility, but there was also some techniques, just simple things, for people that are watching or listening right now, just as a really simple example. If you've got someone that isn't using a mouse, and they might be using a keyboard more, they want the tab key to be able to go in the correct order. So whether that be in the correct order across a menu or in the correct order across a form, there's so many examples where you press the tab key, but actually it takes you to field 7 instead of field 1, 2, 3, 4 in that order. So it just randomly takes you to field 7, field 9, field 10. If you go onto some well-known big websites, if you go onto the big mega menus and you start using the tab key, you find that actually it doesn't go in the correct order. It goes horizontally instead of vertically along the sub menus, which if you are a user, you'd want to go vertically. So they were just, that's, I was just trying to give a real practical example of what we might be talking about here in terms of accessibility. But Google is definitely measuring this. Well, you can see in Lighthouse there's already a score. It's nothing new, but I think I think what is new is that there's a focus on it.
Yeah, fascinating. Listen, time is against us. So I need to kind of ask you, where possible, to use your memory or look at your notes, of course. I'm thinking on behalf of someone who is particularly busy, so that they can't do the full version of SEO as someone who's that's their principal activity. So if you're the casual optimizer, and I mean nothing about it, but just time is against you. You're a content creator, you're publishing it, and you've got just enough time to add, some of the kind of SEO magic. Is there something that you picked up from the event that we need to continue to do, or that could be introduced for the first time?
I would say less is more. So for someone that's busy, that's a content producer, perhaps a website manager, it's around trying to think of a pillar piece of content, a really important piece of content that's going to be really helpful, really resourceful, and use AI, not to write it, but to help you structure it, to help you think about the keywords, to help you think about the different sections, to help you think of some of the things that you need to include in there, and embrace AI, but own the content yourself. Ensure that you have personality. But yeah, what one thing would I be doing if I was a content creator? I'd be reducing the amount of content I'm creating and increasing the quality of the content I'm creating and increasing the depth of content I'm creating. And if you want to appear for a particular keyword, you need to use tools to find lots of keywords around that topic, so that you are really demonstrating to Google that you are knowledgeable, not just on that phrase, but on all the phrases around it as well.
Thank you very much. Let me give you a different scenario then. You have more time. Perhaps indeed it's your full-time occupation to do the SEO and SEM. Anything that you want to mention that you took away from Brighton SEO 2023?
Well, if you're an SEO consultant, for example, and or perhaps you're head of SEO on client side, it goes back to embracing AI, but also focusing on accessibility. It's what I've just talked about, but that would be, I'm hearing agencies that are coming out saying we are not going to be using AI for our content. And my big concern with that, I don't believe that AI should be writing all of it, all of your content. But my big concern is if you don't embrace these things, it's a bit like when we switched to email from the post. If you didn't embrace email, you were going to get left behind and lost. And I just think you need to embrace these things. And from a real technical point of view, focusing on the SEO, start looking at accessibility scores and start really focusing on the differences that you can make there.
Thank you very much. And I think, what is meant often by that statement, we're not going to use AI, is that we're not going to charge clients for offering copywriting where none of us got involved. And I think that's, essentially trying to claim some element of honesty and integrity, but to not use it to support to strategic thinking or planning, as you mentioned, or simply saying, give me again, the broad stroke of what is meant by accessibility, according to John Muller at Google. I think you want that digital assistant, as you and I would call it, as opposed to AI, to be there to support you. Obviously, we can sense, that a week on, you're still so excited and so fired up about you being there at Brighton SEO 2023. What about you and, your services and what your clients can look forward to in terms of what would you add maybe, or what would you reinforce in terms of what you're going to do for, your many projects?
Well, without answering that question quite directly yet, one of the talks that I haven't even mentioned was by Professor Hannah Fry. She's a mathematician. She does a lot of presenting on the BBC, on Radio 4 as well. And she did a talk about data, and there were some really interesting examples that she talked about, and it was real life examples. So there was talk about data in terms of shrimp population. There was data in terms of cows are more females born than male cows. And in fact, actually, she talked about how farmers are now using Fitbits on cows to track their steps, because what that's linked to is what they found is female cows walk more when they're on heat, and if they can use if cows can what's the word that I can use if cows can create young cows at the earlier stage of heat, there's more chance of a female cow being born. And so cows are, so farmers are using data to increase their profitability ultimately. So that, anyway, the point being is that she was giving real life examples, lots of different data. But one of the things that one of the clear things that came out is that if the data doesn't always give you the true picture if there's too much of it, and if you've not taken into account some of the other metrics and some of the other things that are going on. So going back to your question, what are my clients going to get, and what am I going to be doing differently? I think what Hannah's made me really reflect and think about is that there's not just one thing that needs to be right. It's this: you need to have, Google's looking at so many different data points that for us to rank really well and for us to stand out really well, we've got to get it right in several key points. So there's no point having the fastest website in the world if the content isn't helpful. There's also no point having unbelievably helpful content if the website doesn't work very well across all devices. And I know that we've been saying that phrase for years in terms of does it work across other devices, but I'm talking about it in a serious way, where technically what's Google actually scoring in terms of how it works across those devices. So I think, and lastly, well, clients aren't going to get anything different because I'm already embracing AI, and AI is an absolute part of client delivery in terms of increasing the value that we're offering and increasing the strategy that we're offering as well. Because what AI brings is all the experts across the world saying, yes, but have you thought of this as well? And that can make a big difference.
And what is lovely is this idea, which is what you're explaining. You have to have context, and the context comes from you understanding your customers, their needs and wants, but also just their world. And I think you're right. If you're given a data set, but you can't read the data with that tacit knowledge and understanding of your customer's world, you might make some either poorer decisions or go in a direction that is not going to be particularly productive or fruitful.
Yeah. Context. You're absolutely right. It absolutely is about context. I was just looking, we had a couple of comments as well. So thanks if you've been watching live or if you're with us right now. Thank you for engaging online. I'll reply to some of those comments afterwards. But yeah, I mean, it was a great trip, and the content was just awesome. I met some brilliant people as well. Met some, being in a room where there's thousands of other people that do a very similar thing to you is a great place to be, where you can really, have deep conversations and reflect on some of the learnings and some of the the work that I'm already doing with clients, to be able to share some of that data and be able to talk about strategies that have worked, that haven't worked. As it was really insightful. It was really good.
No, thank you very much. And thank you for taking the time to share, both your kind of feelings or reactions and memories from that event. I know that over the coming weeks, more, you'll share more and more as, that kind of dust settles and more of the key takeaways become more and more evident to you. Thank you also for being so trusting, for allowing me to, demote you to a guest on your own show. And I hope that since you've been away, were you away for 3 days all in?
Yeah.
I hope that you thought something very, very nice to do with your family, because I'm sure they missed you as well whilst you were away. But thank you, because for all of us as marketers, whether we're casual optimizers and content creators all the way to full-time, it's nice to hear it in that way with your passion and kind of fire in your belly. So well done.
Thank you. There's going to be lots of content coming out of this. There's already some blogs on my agency website, Fleek.marketing. There's also blogs on the JonnyRoss.com, but there's plenty more content coming out from this. There was so much, I can't not share it. Pascal, of course, I could trust you to run my podcast. Thank you very much for you taking time out to tease some of this out of me. Yeah, I've really enjoyed it. So thank you very much for doing this.
You're very welcome.
See you all soon. Please do join us on the next Jonny Ross Fractional CMO. Thank you so much to Pascal Fintoni. Quick round of applause for Pascal. We shall see you all soon. Same time, same place, on whatever favorite podcast platform you listen to or whatever video platform you watch. We'll see you soon. Take care.